Have you ever felt like you're doing everything right? Ticking all the boxes, showing up, being a good person? But deep down, you're terrified it's not enough? That you're an imposter? Just one wrong move away from being found out? What if the biggest obstacle to a meaningful life isn't your mistakes, but the carefully crafted, perfect version of yourself you show to the world? An ancient story holds a surprising and challenging answer, and it has nothing to do with being perfect. We live in a world of profiles. Our LinkedIn profile, our Instagram profile, our dating profile. We spend hours curating these highlight reels, carefully selecting the photos, the job titles, the witty bios that present the most successful, adventurous, and likable version of ourselves to the world. This isn't a new phenomenon, but technology has amplified it into an art form. It's the pressure to build a personal brand, to perform a version of our life that we think others will approve of, admire, or even envy. And it's exhausting. This constant performance creates a deep and painful anxiety that so many of us in our 20s and 30s feel. It's the gnawing feeling of imposter syndrome, the fear that we aren't as smart, as capable, or as good as our public profile suggests. We get the promotion, but we feel like a fraud. We're in a room full of people, but we feel profoundly lonely because we're afraid to let anyone see behind the mask. We're so busy performing a life that we forget to actually live one. We follow all the external rules. We show up to the right parties. We say the right things. We signal the right virtues online. We eat and drink in the company of the in crowd. But if we're honest, there's a quiet dread underneath it all. A question that haunts our late-night thoughts. Is anyone home behind this mask? Is this carefully constructed identity really me? And if I were to stand before something truly ultimate, something that could see right through me, would I even be recognized? This very fear, this anxiety of being known and found wanting, of being left out in the cold despite doing all the right things, is not new. It's a timeless human struggle, and it was captured in a short, sharp, and deeply psychological story told 2,000 years ago. The story comes from the Gospel of Luke. Jesus is traveling and teaching, and someone in the crowd asks him a question that feels ripped straight from our own anxious minds. Lord, will only a few people be saved? It's the ultimate question of scarcity and anxiety. Is there enough room? Am I going to make the cut? And his answer is strange. He doesn't give a number. He gives a metaphor. He says, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I tell you, will attempt to enter but will not be strong enough." He goes on to paint a scene. Imagine a homeowner who, at the end of the day, gets up and locks the door to his house. And then you arrive. You stand outside knocking, saying, "Lord, open the door for us." But the owner replies from inside, "I do not know where you are from." Now, this is where the story gets really psychologically interesting. The people outside are confused. They don't see themselves as strangers. They say, "But we ate and drank in your company. You taught in our streets." In modern terms, they're saying, "We're connected on LinkedIn. We liked all your posts. We went to the same conferences. We were there." They are presenting their credentials. They are showing their profile. They are proving their affiliation with the right group. They did all the external things correctly. And the owner's reply is chilling. He repeats himself, but with a terrifying finality. "I do not know where you are from. Depart from me, all you evildoers." For centuries, this story has been interpreted as a story of divine judgment, of a God who arbitrarily locks people out of heaven. It's been used to create fear and enforce religious conformity. But what if that's a complete misreading? What if this isn't a story about an angry God, but a profound psychological insight into the human soul? This is where the work of the great Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung can offer us a key, a way to unlock this ancient story for our modern lives. Jung spent his life mapping the inner world, and one of his most important concepts is something we've already been talking about: the persona. The persona is the social mask we wear. It's the version of ourselves we present to the outside world, to function in society, to be accepted, to fit in. Your persona is your job title, your role as a parent or a friend, your online bio. It's not inherently bad. It's absolutely necessary. You can't show every single messy, contradictory part of yourself in a business meeting or on a first date. The persona is a functional, protective layer. But Jung warned of a great danger: identifying completely with your persona. This is when you forget that the mask is a mask. You start to believe that you are your job title. You start to believe you are your Instagram feed. You pour all your psychic energy into maintaining and polishing this external facade, while your true, deep, inner life, your actual self, is neglected and starved. Now let's look at the story again through this Jungian lens. The people knocking on the door are not evil. They are people who have made a critical error. They have mistaken their persona for their soul. Their plea, "We ate and drank in your company," is the cry of the persona. It's listing its social bona fides, its group affiliations, its external performances. They believe that these external actions should be enough, that their polished mask should grant them entry. And who is the master of the house? In Jungian terms, the master isn't some external deity. He is a symbol of the self, the deep, authentic, whole center of your being. The self is the totality of who you are, your conscious ego, but also your vast, unconscious depths, your light and your darkness, your strengths and your weaknesses. The self is the seat of true, grounded identity. So when the self says, "I do not know you," it's not a moral judgment. It's a statement of fact. The self, the core of your authentic being, does not recognize the superficial mask of the persona. It has no relationship with it. You can spend your entire life polishing your persona, collecting credentials, getting likes, and being seen with the right people. But if you never do the inner work to connect with your authentic self, you will arrive at the door of your own soul, a stranger. The door is locked from the inside because you were never home. This is the psychological root of that imposter syndrome we feel. It's a signal, a whisper from the neglected self, telling you that the mask you're wearing, your persona, isn't the real you. That feeling of being a fraud is actually a call to adventure. It's a call to the most important journey you will ever take. Jung called this journey the individuation process. Individuation is the journey of becoming who you truly are. It's the process of differentiating yourself from the collective expectations, of taking off the persona and courageously turning inward to encounter all the parts of yourself you've hidden away. Not just the good parts, but the parts you're ashamed of. What Jung called the shadow. This is the narrow gate. The gate is narrow because it's a path you must walk alone. No one can do it for you. Your credentials can't get you through. Your connections can't get you through. Your number of followers can't get you through. The gate is narrow because it requires shedding everything that is not authentically you: the borrowed opinions, the social conditioning, the need for external validation. It's a path of subtraction, not addition. And why do many not have the strength to enter? Because it is hard. It's painful to look at your own shadow, to admit your own envy, your own anger, your own insecurity. It's terrifying to let go of the safety of the crowd and the comfort of a well-polished persona that has earned you praise. It requires immense courage to choose the difficult path of authenticity over the easy, wide path of conformity. But it is the only path that leads home to the self. So, what does this mean for us, here and now, wrestling with our anxieties and our carefully curated lives? This ancient story, seen through a Jungian lens, offers us a profound liberation. It tells us that the feeling of not being good enough is not a sign that you need a better persona. It's a sign that you need a deeper connection to yourself. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be whole. Wholeness means accepting and integrating all the parts of yourself, not just the ones that get you likes. It means having the courage to be vulnerable, to be messy, to be a work in progress. The strength to enter the narrow gate isn't brute force. It's the quiet, resilient strength of self-awareness and radical self-acceptance. How do we begin this journey? It starts by consciously creating space between you and your persona. First, practice self-observation without judgment. Start to notice when you're performing. When are you saying something not because you believe it, but because you think it's what the group wants to hear? When you post something online, are you sharing an authentic moment, or are you crafting a piece of your persona? You don't have to change it immediately. Just notice. This simple act of noticing creates a sliver of daylight between the real you and the mask. Second, embrace the unproductive. The individuation journey happens in the quiet spaces that our hyper-productive culture tells us are a waste of time. Journaling, quiet walks in nature, meditation, therapy, or simply sitting in silence. Ask yourself questions like, what do I truly want, apart from what I'm supposed to want? What am I afraid of people seeing in me? When do I feel most alive and authentic? This is how you begin to hear the voice of the self again. Finally, reframe your purpose. The story ends with a powerful reversal. For behold, some are last who will be first, and some are first who will be last. In the world of the persona, the first are those with the most followers, the best titles, the most polished masks. But in the world of the soul, they are last, because they are furthest from their true home. The last are often those who have given up the frantic race for external validation. They are the ones doing the quiet, unglamorous inner work of becoming whole. They are walking the narrow path, and they will be first to recline at the table in the kingdom of their own integrated soul. The anxiety of being left out, of being locked out, is real. But this story tells us the key is in your own hand. The door isn't locked by a judging God, but by our own neglect of our inner life. The invitation is to stop knocking on external doors, pleading with your persona's resume in hand. The invitation is to turn around, walk the narrow path inward, and find the master of the house who has been waiting for you all along. The journey is long. It requires strength, but it is the only one that leads to a place where you are fully known and finally, truly home.